Dear viewers, you're welcome to this edition of the news on Equinox Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Babla Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, the national chairman of the Social Democratic Front, John Frundi, says it is time to put an end to the war in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. He thinks that the both parties involved in the war must give in to peace, must give way for reconstruction of destroyed villages of the two Anglophone regions of the country. He was speaking to the Inside on Equinox Television after a long while of absence in public view over the weekend from Georgia in the United States of America. And also in this newscast, we'll talk about the impact of the Anglophone crisis and the coronavirus on back to school. Pupils and students returned to school across the National Triangle today, but it wasn't effective or timid in several parts of the two Anglophone regions of the Republic of Cameroon as a result of the unstable socio-political and security situation coupled with the coronavirus pandemic. Stay with us. The national chairman of the Social Democratic Front (SDF) political party, John Frundi, is calling for an end to the 4-year-long conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. John Frundi, speaking to the Inside on Equinox Television from Georgia in the United States of America yesterday, said both parties involved in the war must give in. They must give way to peace and reconstruction in the two Anglophone regions of the country. And he also indicated that the government must take its responsibility to restore peace and normalcy in the crisis-hit regions. Take a listen to John Frundi.
There's no war without an end. There's no fight without an end. And when people fight and they sit down to talk, it's not because one part has won. I was thinking that the government can come with a win-win situation. And this win-win situation, if the government gives in a bit and the secessionists give in a bit, we'll be able to build our society. Because the leadership, I said this before and they picked it on me. It's not by picking on me that will frighten me. The leadership of the Amazonians outside. They are out here living well. Their children are going to school. They are working. They have money, they are staying in good houses. Now, can you tell me what will happen if this disease falls into the refugee camps, as I said before? We will be the biggest losers, not the people that are out here living well. I know that they fought a fight, they fought well, but there's no fight that they don't sit down somewhere along the line to broker peace. And if they're sitting down to broker peace, we do not count whether we've gotten what we wanted or not. So, but I think, and I'm of that very strong opinion, that the government has to do something. And Mr. Biya's government must bring this war to an end. And when that is done, the Amazonian leaders outside should call their boys out of the bush. Constructions in the northwest and the southwest. The young people will be able to sell their sand. They'll be able to sell their gravels, and the mothers will be able to fry their puff-puff, ripen their bananas and sell to the workers. They'll be able to make some money.
John Frundi, national chairman of the Social Democratic Front, was speaking to the Inside on Equinox Television yesterday live from Georgia in the United States of America. And he has been calling on the people of the northwest and the southwest regions of the country to accept government's reconstruction plan, and both parties involved in the war to bring down the weapons so that peace and normalcy can return to those across two regions where killings and destruction of properties, displacements of hundreds of thousands of persons have continued for the past close to 4 years. And in the Kumba today, the town was, or the streets were deserted today as a result of the Operation Ghost Town imposed by pro-independence fighters. And despite the efforts of municipal authorities, notably the mayors of Kumba 1, 2, and 3 subdivisions, who were on the streets last week urging all traders to reopen their shops on Mondays to disrespect the Operation Ghost Town imposed by separatist fighters, or their shops will be sealed. Today, the town was still ghosted, so to speak, even with the back to school. Gabriel reports.
It is a day pupils and students in examination classes were expected back in school. This school in the heart of K-Town is closed. It is the same scenario we observed in most of the schools that are found in the Green City.
Any trader where not open his that Monday, the council will lock up.
On May 28, 2020, the city mayor, alongside the divisional officers and mayors of Kumba 1, 2, and 3, made a walk to warn business operators in K-Town not to close their stores on Ghost Town days. It is Monday in Kumba, and the Ghost Town is respected by its inhabitants. The Kumba main market gate is open. No traders or buyers within or around the market as it used to be on normal days. Several traders shut their stores because of the fear of the unknown. Major streets in K-Town were also deserted by the population. No commercial motorcycle, taxis or private cars were seen plying the road. At the time of this report, as promised by the authorities of Kumba 1, 2, and 3 to seal the business places that respected Ghost Town call, we toured the market and no seal was placed on any store. None of the administrative authorities was also seen in the streets. One person, a commercial bike rider, was reported to have been killed by alleged separatist fighters for disrespecting the Ghost Town call and trying to walk. Government Bilingual High School Kusala served as the battlefield between the military and the separatist fighters who were engaged in a bitter gun battle.
Operation Ghost Town has been enforced by pro-independence fighters in the two Anglophone regions of the country for close to 4 years today, as they battle to restore the statehood of the former Southern Cameroon's territory, which has today become the northwest and the southwest regions of the country. And the Anglophone crisis, coupled with the coronavirus pandemic, adversely affected school resumption today across Anglophone Cameroon. In some parts of the two Anglophone regions, schools have not opened their doors for close to 4 years today, and where the schools were functioning today was a timid turnout, a timid school resumption because of the crisis and the coronavirus pandemic. The fear of contracting the virus is still keeping some of the pupils and students in their homes. And Derek Jato now files in details on school resumption today in the Indian Division Southwest region of Cameroon.
This is the pace of school resumption in Mundimba, the divisional headquarters of Indian Division.
I want to say before the day of today, under the supervisions of the various sub-divisional officers, all the campuses of all the schools in Indian Division were kept clean.
Earlier, Forwan Lawrence, the senior divisional officer of the said division, started his day here, reminds and pupils about the real realities of the deadly COVID-19 pandemic and how the government is determined to accompany them through these challenging times.
Necessary measures have been taken to ensure that no contamination soever have not come empty-handed. Have come with 100 protective face masks to be handed to you. Mr. Delegates, before the end of tomorrow, let me get the names of all the teachers who have not yet answered present to this call by the head of state. Not only the name, their names and their managing number. Thank you very much.
Drawing conclusion from reports gathered from all the subdivisions that made up Ndian Division, feedback of this day one of school resumption by the senior divisional officer from Ndian Division is positive.
All the examination classes in Mondamba subdivision this morning, plus echo comments reaching me from the other subdivisions, I can now ascertain that all examination classes are fully kicked off in Ndian Division.
And these ready-to-learn students and pupils have also answered present, but will they be efficiently sustained in a division with very limited healthcare services? That is another question for another day. But for now, authorities in Ndian Division are happy that schools have resumed in the entire division this Monday, June 1, 2020.
Authorities in Anglophone Cameroon and in other parts of the country doing everything possible to ensure that students and pupils in examination classes are back to school and that they complete the current academic year despite the Anglophone crisis in Anglophone Cameroon and the coronavirus pandemic across the national territory. In the town of Bamenda, some pupils and students effectively returned to school today despite the operation goes down and the unstable and uncertain socio-political and security climate reigning there. But our correspondent Stella visited some schools and says that turnout or school resumption was quite timid. Her report.
Day one of school resumption in Bamenda, headquarters of the Northwest region. This reporter is returning from the government bilingual high school downtown in Bamenda 2, where at 9 a.m. no administrative staff or students were seen on campus. Everywhere was locked. Security guards on campus prevented the Equinox television team from getting images on grounds that no school administrator is present to authorize us. At the government bilingual high school Bamenda Nkwe, a Form 5 student answered present. The school's principal, Madam Estella Awuru, in the company of other staff, cleaned the campus and numbered the benches while respecting the social distancing guidelines of one student per bench.
Yes, so 24, you go to the next class, you have the next 24. Actually, we have like 34 classes that we're going to put into use. From 5, we have this campus. All of this is for Oxford students and the terminal students. Then the other campus A is for Form 5, Troisième.
The streets are deserted. It is Monday, a ghost town day. Observers say it could be a reason for today's low turnout at schools on day one of resumption, but school administrators are optimistic. They say they are preparing to welcome more students in the days ahead and are taking measures to keep them safe on campus. To this effect, tap buckets have been placed on the campus of Government Bilingual High School Bamenda Nkwe, while at the Progressive Comprehensive School, taps with running water and soap have been constructed outside the campus and tap buckets within the school.
Students and pupils effectively return to school hitch-free in Anglophone parts of the country despite the looming fear of the coronavirus pandemic. The pupils and the students were in their classrooms today in the schools in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. The lessons started effectively with teachings on the coronavirus pandemic given to some of the pupils and the students to get them acquainted with the situation on ground as far as the coronavirus pandemic is concerned. Immaculate Fogo reports on back to school in the Douala 4 subdivision.
Thermoflashes, soap and mobile buckets filled with water are some of the items any person getting on campuses in the Douala 4 subdivision will have to use. The normal euphoria that used to be felt on day one of school resumption is missing as students could be seen wearing face masks and respecting the social distancing rule. Before any teacher kickstarts lectures on the subject matter, COVID-19 preventive measures are explained to the students.
You know that corona is out there, so but we are resuming trusting the measures that have been put in place. I'm happy all of you this morning you're having your face mask. Friends, you're not supposed to be found 10 of you or 20 of you in a big group alone before you remove the mask. And I want to emphasize on this. We are serious. This is about our lives. You wash your hands constantly.
The governor of the Lithra region, Samuel Judeneva Deboa, during his tour in some of the schools in the Douala 4 subdivision, engaged the students on a question and answer session on the coronavirus pandemic.
Prepare myself and my friends in class to protest against what? Coronavirus. Yes. Please, can you tell me what kind of symptoms you can detect to say that we are in case of corona? The symptoms. Yeah? Cough, yes? Malaria. And you can complete? Yes. Okay. Now, to advise somebody if you have a coronavirus disease, what can you do for him to help him?
Though some schools carried out online classes, teachers of these establishments say they plan using this period to embark on practical lessons.
While the school lockdowns were effective, most of our students were taking online classes right from the 18th. When school started to stop on the 17th, from the 18th, there have been WhatsApp forums and Zoom meetings. So our real issue now is with the practical lessons. That's the science lab, the ICT, and all of that. Since they couldn't do that from a distance. So that's where we put more emphasis now to finish with that.
The decision for examination classes to resume school on the 1st of June 2020 is coming at a time when some education stakeholders describe school resumption as an opening for more COVID-19 cases in Cameroon.
In the Douala 3 subdivision, most of the pupils and students reporters spoke to are already very much versed with the coronavirus pandemic and the preventive measures. These are some of the things that they were taught on day one in lesson number 1 today. And of course, they spoke to Donald Brice Kamgan. Take a listen to some of them in this extract.
I can say I'm scared because even though we're having a mask, the students are not still respecting the measures that the government put in place. The 1 meter is some still sit close to each other. So even the mask itself, when we remain in class like that, the mask is not that way. You are feeling uncomfortable when wearing the mask. So at least as I'm doing like that, when in the class we remain like this. If your friends talk to you, you talk like that, you might get contact. So we don't even like, if you want to greet your friend, we don't greet like that. We greet the normal way as you usually greet at first. It's really frustrating us because, for instance, the mask, when you wear the mask, you are not breathing very well. You are not able to breathe. It's like, it's hot. So you need to remove, drag, you put like this so you can breathe fresh air. Because when the mask is there, the air is hot, it's compressed, so you need to breathe fresh air, so you need to jack it down. And right jacking down like that, my contact.
I'm very excited coming back to school, but as a matter of fact, I've noticed that things are very strange. We are no more closer as we were before. There is now a distance of 1 meter. Everyone is having a hand sanitizer and a mask. So it's very different than at its was before. It's true, it's frustrating, but we have to adapt ourselves to that in order to prevent ourselves from the sickness.
I've realized that we are having buckets to wash our hands and that we are no more going out of it. That we are carrying masks to protect ourselves and we are sitting 1 meter around from our classmates. We are no more touching our classmates, we are no more embracing them. We are having hand sanitizer to wash our hands regularly and having water to wash our hands with water and soap. We are not having canteen to go and buy food so that to protect ourselves from coronavirus. No, I'm not frustrated. I'm happy because our school is protecting us from that disease. I'm so happy. I am telling thank you to our madam that is having this good heart to do this for us.
First lesson today is that the headmaster and other teachers of the school taught us many things about the pandemic disease coronavirus. And they said that this is too much contagious and infects many people in a short period of time. It can even take the population just in 1 day. This means we can protect our surroundings and us ourselves by taking some measures, which are washing our hands with running water and soap, and we use hydroalcoholic hand sanitizers. And we can take and we should practice a distanciation of 1 meter or more than 1 meter.
Some teachers in some of the schools in the Douala 3 subdivision who spoke to us said some absences were recorded and that they are doing everything possible to ensure that the teaching and learning process is effective despite the inconveniences brought by the coronavirus pandemic. Take a listen to some of them.
I'm not sure every people is okay. They are happy to be back in school, and because to what I can see this morning, those who were absent are those who are not well, because I'm having only 3-5 people that they are absent, but the parents have called me to inform that they are not well.
I think it's challenging because the children came back, they were like happy, they could hug us, but that distancing stopped the children from hugging us. And even while in class, we've been saying it, but now it's time to take the practical, so I think we are facing some challenges, but then it's going to be okay. I have 18 pupils in my class, though not all of them are around, but I think 80% of the pupils have been able to answer present today.
Now we're taking you to the west region of the country, where some pupils and students in the locality of Banka in the Opankam division rather took to the farm. They were instead in the farms today instead of the classrooms, and the parents are still skeptical about the safety of their children as far as with regards to the coronavirus pandemic and the measures that the government has put in place so far to ensure that the students are studying coronavirus free. And some, however, return to their classrooms, and the lessons kick-started today effectively, as Manjik and Gabriel. Rather, for me, Armstrong Sander reports.
The COVID-19 impact was visibly present on back to school in the Opankam division of the west region of Cameroon. In Banka subdivision, streets were almost completely void of learners, as many could rather be seen on their way to the farm. In few schools where kids answered present, teachers said special measures were taken to keep them safe from COVID-19. The measures include, among others, a special seating order in order to facilitate social distancing. regular hand washing, rotated classroom lessons and reduced lessons for a period in order to keep them safe from COVID-19.
Pendant le temps de confinement des enfants,
according to this senior school official, a great work was done while kids were at home, and this will consequently positively contribute to what he calls a revision within the about a month period in school. At the EEC primary school in Banka, the 64 kids who answered present were divided among 3 classrooms, school officials said. At the Notre Dame primary school in Banka, 67 learners answered present from the total of 75 expected in the school, according to school officials.
Now we're going to the OPEC city of Limbe in the southwest region of the country to talk about a fire incident that occurred a few minutes ago, and some persons are feared to have been burnt beyond recognition after 2 vehicles allegedly involved in transportation of illegal fuel had a head-on collision around the Moliwe entrance to the town of Limbe. Davidson Maimo files in details. Davidson Maimo with the details of that incident which occurred in the town of Limbe, in which several persons are feared to have been burnt beyond recognition following an accident that provoked a fire incident in that part of the country. And he indicates that the vehicles involved in the fire or the accident were largely transporting illegal fuel. Davidson Maimo has more. All right, we will not be having that report in this newscast. We'll be coming back to it in a subsequent news editions. Now to the United States of America, where protests or violence flares across the country as anger spreads over the death of a black man in police custody, and there are now curfews in several cities, including the capital. 46-year-old George Floyd was allegedly killed by a police officer.
From Boston to San Francisco, protesters have ignored curfews in at least 40 cities as they took to the streets for a 6th night. The demonstrations were ignited by the May 25th death of an unarmed African-American man, George Floyd, at the hands of a white police officer. Once again, the protests reached the White House, where chants could be heard from around 1,000 demonstrators just across the street in Lafayette Park, as they faced police in riot gear behind barricades. Police used flashbangs to stop another group from reaching the park. Across the nation, demonstrators called for an end to police violence, but many also joined officers in pleading for an end to the fires, vandalism and looting. The Trump administration has branded instigators domestic terrorists. President Donald Trump tweeted demanding law and order now. They're looting stores. Call in our National Guard. At one point, a truck in Minnesota appeared to be driven deliberately into protesters, although no injuries have been reported. Video footage of George Floyd's arrest showed him handcuffed and pleading for air as a white police officer pressed a knee on his neck for several minutes. The officer, Derek Chauvin, has been charged with third-degree murder, and 4 others have been sacked. On Sunday, Minnesota's governor brought in thousands of National Guard soldiers in a show of force to help quell the violence.
More than 6 million COVID-19 cases have now been recorded worldwide, and meantime some European countries, including the United Kingdom, France and Italy, are easing or considering easing lockdown measures. Uranus.
The UK government's been forced to defend its decision to ease coronavirus lockdown restrictions further in England. It came as people took advantage of soaring weekend temperatures and flocked to beaches and beauty spots.
we're reasonably confident that the steps that we've taken and will be taking on Monday are manageable, but we have to all continue to play our part in that because the rate of infection remains somewhere between 0.7 and 0.9 and the room for manoeuvre is quite limited.
Besides telling most at-risk people who've been at home for months that they can now go out, primary schools are set to reopen today, but it's unclear how many parents will be sending their children back to the classrooms.
It may be that there are some parents out there today who have not yet made the decision to send their children back to school, but will do so in the days ahead when they've seen other people make that step and schools manage to reopen safely.
The government in Spain is taking a cautious approach. Even though its death rate has dropped to 2 in the last 24 hours, the Prime Minister is extending the country's state of emergency, but for a final time. Meanwhile, Estonia is leading the way in freedom of movement, waiving quarantine requirements on Germany and Austria. It follows last week's creation of a travel bubble with Latvia and Lithuania. In France, preparations are underway for the opening of restaurants and bars on Tuesday. Until then, with few visitors to the capital, locals have been enjoying having the delights of the Seine to themselves.
It's the right moment to enjoy it at the end of confinement. There are no boats, and tourist boats are all forbidden on the Seine.
In Italy's recorded 75 deaths, its fewest since the start of lockdown. The Colosseum had the Italian tricolour projected onto its ancient walls to mark its reopening.
And Cameroon is now counting more than 6,000 confirmed cases of the coronavirus. This is where we end this edition of the news on Equinox Television. Thanks for staying with us. Goodbye.